Hello, everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, executive life coach and master hypnotist. And today we're going to go back to one of our favorite topics, which is narcissism. And we want to talk about how expectation plays a role when you're a victim of a narcissist and what you kind of grow to expect and why you stay.
Well, that's a really good one. And yes, anyone who's ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, no matter what the relationship is, whether it be a romantic relationship or parent-child, child-parent, sibling, friends, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all going to have the same similar feel and flavor to it. What happens in the mind of the victim of a narcissist, they are going to constantly be building up in their mind an expectation that at some point in this relationship, if I keep on, nurturing it and doing everything I can to help this person and show them lots of love and understanding and all this kind of thing, that at some point it's going to flip over on itself. Because how we look at it is someone who's in what I call the downside of the narcissistic relationship or the victim, on an overall spectrum, it's about 90% unhappy, and that can range from just, general unhappiness to plain misery. That's 90% of the time. And then you get 10%. That narcissist will give you a 10% sliver of time where they're the person that you fell in love with or the person that you thoroughly believe in. And you think, oh my gosh, it is possible. It is possible. So then they become, the expectation keeps on building that if I keep pouring myself into this relationship, it will turn around and it'll be 90% joy and only maybe 10% not so much.
So is it kind of like the idea that you kind of don't want to walk away from the progress because of that sliver of good? Like, is that kind of what it is? Because I feel like a lot of society today, or at least what I hear in my age group, is like, well, we've been together this long, not even necessarily in relation to just narcissism, but just like staying in a relationship that's probably not beneficial.
Well, as you say, that kind of brings up a phrase that I've been using for years. I think I came up with it. I don't know if this one's original or if I may have heard it somewhere, but I call it a prisoner of hope. That person is a prisoner of hope that if they keep on doing and keep on believing and keep on caring and loving and nurturing, whatever it might be, then it's going to turn into the relationship that they're expecting and wanting it to be. So people who stay in these relationships way longer than they need to, they're combination of things, combination of expectation, of hope, and as you were you're really close, you're rubbing right up against it with what you were saying, it's that, well, I'm already in it, so I might as well keep going, because the status quo is always better to the subconscious mind than making a huge change and doing something else. Because we got to remember, subconscious mind loves familiar. It does not like what's unfamiliar. So if you have a negative relationship, a person can stay in that relationship for their many years and decades because it's better than the unknown of breaking up with that person and finding someone else or whatever it might be. So it really becomes like a pattern, habit, ritual, that kind of thing.
So when you're dealing with a narcissist, one thing I feel like we've never actually discussed, which I think this could be a good time to discuss it, is like you can't like beat narcissism out of a narcissist. Like that's just kind of who they are. So when we're talking about a situation like this, once you identify it, pretty much the only thing you can do is leave, right? If you're not willing to partake in whatever they're asking you to partake in, you identify they're a narcissist and you decide that this is not something you're capable of handling, the only option is to leave, correct?
Absolutely. And, I do loads and loads of research, not just the thousands of people that I've worked with in our office directly one-on-one with this type of situation, but I also look at lots of mental health studies, mental health professionals that I have good regard and respect for. And it's ubiquitous throughout all planes of discipline when it comes to this, is that there is no cure for narcissism. They will not change. They will not change for the better. Mm-hmm. Chances are, as they get older, they become more harsh because they're really, really channeling all I care about is what I want, and that's nothing else matters. Now, kind of something what you were describing a little bit also, is that if you try to just walk away from a narcissist, they will find you. They will pursue you. I've actually had a woman in my office, I think it was the longest I ever heard, was 25 years. She had dated a guy in college who turned out to be just a real jerk. They were together like 6 months, if I remember right. And he just treated her like crap, and he had problems with alcohol abuse and being just really mean. And he would sound like classic textbook narcissist. 25 years later, she'd never seen or heard from the guy again until Facebook brought them back together. He sent her a little message. I see you're doing really well. I always hoped that things would go good for you. I always believed in you. I always knew, blah, blah. And he kind of just didn't ask her out, nothing. He just sent her this little message. Next thing she knows, they're in a full-blown, long-distance Facebook relationship. And then after just a little bit, it didn't take more than a couple of weeks, she started getting the drip feed of those old narcissistic behaviors that he had 25 years ago coming back again. So you have to realize that it's never over. You have to keep them out of your life.
And I mean, again, that's why I think social media plays such a big role in narcissism, because it's a lot easier to hide that you're a narcissist online, unless you're the kind of narcissist that just outwardly shows it and then hopes people don't care. I don't know, but I do think that's an interesting conversation, because if you can identify it, the best thing you can possibly do is leave immediately. Again, I don't think this applies to a lot of the relationships people believe it does. Narcissism is definitely a misused term quite often, but if you can recognize the signs, then yeah, definitely do something about it.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, even on a more personal note, my parents, Lauren's grandparents, terrible narcissistic people. Both of them were involved in heavy drinking, casual drug use. They abused gambling. They abused prescription drugs. But they both smoked 2 packs a day. These were just very not nice people. They were very mean and cold, and they constantly lied. You could never get the truth out of these people for anything. And these were my parents. They're both passed away now. Excuse me. But I had made a decision at some point, just after getting married and had our first child together, my wife and I decided that I did not want to raise my kids in this extremely negative, toxic, angry environment with their grandparents. So I literally cut off all ties. But about 10 years later, my sister gets together with my wife, and she convinces my wife that our parents are changed. They're not like they used to be. Really talk to Ken about how we can all get back together and have a nice family time again. So I said, all right, let's give this a try. Let's see what happens. And it didn't take long before it imploded. It was only a few months, and their true colors came out again, and they were the same horrible, miserable, angry people they ever were. So you see, I tried. I thought maybe time could heal this wound and everybody would be better. Nope. It was actually, they were worse than they ever were.
Well, and that also goes to show, blood doesn't make somebody family. That doesn't make an excuse to deal with a narcissist. No one should be dealing with a narcissist just because they're blood related. That's still absolutely not okay. Having similar genes in common with someone does not give them the right to treat you like that. So I think that's a hard lesson, because so many people are taught it's family, so you just deal with family, and that's really not how it should work. They can be just as damaging as a friend, a romantic relationship, anything. It's not exclusive to any kind of person at all.
You said it perfectly. If I would just add just a little bit to the top of that, is that the narcissist will use family and family values and blood is thicker than water and all this mess as a means of trying to extract more from the people in their family. With me, because I've always been able to make a good living, my parents were always about money. They couldn't stop trying to get money out of me. And so because we're family, I felt obligated, and they were using my empathy and that feeling of family obligation to constantly just drain me until I finally, like I said before, cut it off entirely.
And that's the thing, too, I think that's necessary to point out is it can happen to anybody. He's a life coach and a hypnotist. He was not at the time that these things were going on, but having, a good read on people's behaviors, having really high emotional intelligence does not make you immune to dealing with a narcissist and becoming a victim. It can happen to anybody, and it continue to happen throughout your life. We've had an experience in the last couple years with a narcissist. So there's no type of person that's going to be immune to this, because they're just really good at disguising themselves since they're constantly evolving.
Absolutely perfect. That was perfectly put.
So basically, if you're dealing with a narcissist, don't feel bad about it. It happens to everybody. You're not some idiot. It's not some crazy thing. You shouldn't have seen the signs. It does happen slowly. It happens naturally. You're okay. You will be fine. If you need extra help, obviously feel free to call our office and we would love to get you in. This is exactly what we're here for.
That's it. Yeah, we can help people break those ties and get away from it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't sugarcoat it. Anybody who knows me, it's not going to be a pretty easy process. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. And you're going to be filled with question and doubt. Should I do this? Is this right? But once you get on the other side of it, you go, holy crap, I'm so glad I did that.
But I couldn't agree more. It doesn't sound like a fun thing to do at the time, but once you're through it, you know that it was the right thing.
Yeah. Man, thank you.